The GPS flickered first. Not a full failure, just a small hesitation, like it forgot where the world was supposed to be. I stopped walking and stared at the screen. The blue dot that was supposed to be me sat in the middle of a gray blur. No trails, no labels, no forest path, just empty digital noise. I looked up. The trail was still there. Dirt path, broken leaves, thin branches leaning in like they were watching me. I whispered to myself, okay, that's weird. The signal bars dropped to 1. Then 0. That's when I should have turned back. But I didn't. Because the forest ahead wasn't just dark, it felt unfinished. Like something had started building it and then stopped halfway through. And I kept thinking, maybe the GPS is wrong, not me. I put the phone away and started walking again. That was mistake number 1. The trail had been normal when I started. Old hiking path. Local hikers called it the back loop. Nothing dangerous, just quiet woods and long shadows. But after about 20 minutes, I noticed something off. The trees started getting too straight. Not naturally straight, like planted, like someone had lined them up carefully and told them not to move. I slowed down. The wind stopped. Not weakened, stopped completely. That's when I heard my own footsteps too clearly. Every step sounded delayed, like the forest was repeating me half a second late. Tap, tap. I stopped again. The echo stopped too. That's when I realized something worse. The forest was copying me. Not perfectly, but almost. Like it was learning. I checked my phone again. Still no signal. But now the GPS wasn't just blank. It was actively changing. The path I had walked was disappearing behind me on the map. I watched it happen. The blue line I created started thinning, breaking apart like it was being erased in real time. I frowned. That's not possible. I zoomed out. The forest around me wasn't fully mapped anymore. Entire sections were gone, like someone was deleting the world around my footsteps. I felt a small tightness in my chest. That's when I first thought, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. But instead of turning back, I did something even more stupid. I kept walking faster. The trees got closer. Not physically moving, but the space between them felt smaller, like the forest was leaning inward to listen. And then I noticed the path behind me. It didn't look the same anymore. I turned around fully this time. My breath slowed. The trail I had just walked on was thinner, older looking, covered in leaves that weren't there before. I blinked hard. How did that? A branch cracked somewhere deeper in the woods. I froze. It wasn't a loud sound. It was soft, careful. Like something stepping, and then deciding not to be heard. I waited. Nothing came out. But the feeling stayed. I tried GPS again. No signal, still nothing. But now my phone did something new. It buzzed. Once. A notification. Except there was no network. I opened it anyway. It was the map app. But it wasn't showing where I was. It was showing a live feed of the trail behind me. From above. Like a drone shot. My stomach dropped. On the screen, I could see myself standing still in the middle of the forest. But what scared me wasn't that. It was what was behind me. The trail was stretching. Like rubber. Expanding and folding in places it shouldn't. And at the far edge of the map, something looked like a structure. A dark square shape between the trees. A cabin. I blinked. The feed refreshed. The structure was gone. Just trees again. I whispered, no, I saw that. I turned around slowly. Nothing there. Just forest. But now I couldn't trust empty space anymore. Every gap between trees felt like it could be hiding something that knew I was looking. I forced myself to breathe normally. In, out. But my breath sounded too loud. Like I was inside a closed room instead of open woods. That's when I noticed the light. Not sunlight. It was darker than that. A dim gray glow ahead. Like the forest was being lit from somewhere that didn't belong to this world. I didn't want to go toward it, but I did anyway, because turning back felt worse. The trail started sloping down slightly. I don't remember it doing that before. My boots slipped on damp soil. The air got colder, and then I saw something strange. The trees on both sides were no longer random. They were forming a corridor. Perfect spacing. Too perfect. Like a hallway. I stopped walking. The forest didn't. It kept pressing forward silently. And that's when I heard something behind me again. Footsteps. Slow. Matching mine. I turned fast. Nothing. But the sound stayed. Walking when I was. I whispered, "Stop copying me." The footsteps stopped. Immediately. Too immediately. Like whatever it was understood me. My phone buzzed again. This time, no notification. Just vibration. Constant. Like it was warning me. I opened it. The map was gone. Completely replaced by a single line. A path. No labels. No forest. Just a straight black line going deeper into the woods. And at the end of that line, a small dot. Blinking. Waiting. I felt my throat tighten. Because I realized something I didn't want to admit. The line wasn't showing where I was. It was showing where I was being led. I stopped again. The forest stopped with me. Even the wind felt paused. I looked around slowly. "Okay," I said quietly, not even sure who I was talking to. "I'm done. I'm going back." I turned around. And that's when I saw it. The trail behind me wasn't behind me anymore. It was gone. Not hidden. Not blocked. Gone. In its place was just dense forest. Trees packed too tightly together, like they had always been there. My chest went cold. I stepped forward. Nothing. No path. I stepped again. Still nothing. It was like the forest had closed itself behind me. Like it had decided I wasn't allowed to leave the way I came in. That's when I heard something new. Not footsteps. Not wind. A faint sound like wood creaking. Slow. Deliberate. Somewhere deeper ahead. I turned toward the glow again. It was brighter now. More defined. And through the trees, I saw it. A shape. A structure. A cabin. But I swear on everything, I had never seen anything built here before. No roads. No markings. No human logic that explained how it existed in this place. And still, it was there, waiting, as if it had always been there, as if I was the one who arrived late. My phone buzzed one last time. One final update on the map. The blinking dot moved forward on its own, straight toward the cabin, even though I wasn't walking. And then the screen slowly dimmed. Not broken, just fading, like it had finished showing me what it needed to. I looked up again at the cabin through the trees, and for the first time, I noticed the door. It was already slightly open. The footprints didn't make sense because they were fresh and old at the same time. I crouched down slowly, my fingers hovering just above the soil. 2 sets. One going forward. One coming back. but both were mine. That was the first impossible thing. The second was that the return footprints were clearer than the ones I had just made. Like someone had stepped into my past and pressed harder into it. I swallowed. The forest didn't make a sound. Even the air felt paused, waiting for me to understand something I wasn't supposed to understand yet. I whispered I didn't walk back here. My voice felt small, wrong, like it didn't belong in this space. I stood up and looked ahead. The trail was still there. At least I thought it was. It was faint now, not fully gone, but fatting at the edges like a memory losing detail. But the footprints ahead were strong. Too strong. Each step looked like it had been pressed with extra weight, like I was carrying something heavy when I walked. But I didn't remember carrying anything. That was the third problem. My memory didn't match the ground. I started walking again, slower this time. Every step I took lined up perfectly with the footprints ahead of me, like I was following myself. That thought made my stomach tighten, because it meant I wasn't exploring the forest anymore. I was chasing a version of myself that already knew where this ended. The trees on both sides leaned in slightly as I passed, not moving fast, just enough to make me feel watched. And then I noticed something worse. The footprints ahead were stopping and starting, like whoever made them had paused mid-walk. Over and over. I stopped walking. So did the footprints. I stepped forward once. The footprints ahead moved forward too. Exactly one step. I froze completely. No wind. No birds. Only my breathing, which suddenly felt too loud. I whispered, "That's not possible." The footprints didn't answer, but they waited. I tried something stupid. I stepped back, slowly, carefully, and I watched the footprints ahead of me step back too. Not delay, not copy after a second. Instant, like they were connected to me in real time. My skin went cold. I wasn't following footprints anymore. I was being mirrored. I looked around the forest quickly, trying to find a rational explanation. A prank, another hiker, anything. But the forest was empty in a way that felt deliberate. Even the shadows didn't move normally. They stayed too still, like they were watching without eyes. And then I saw something new. Far ahead on the trail, a small shape, standing between the trees. I squinted. A person. My heart jumped slightly, hope and fear mixing in the worst way. But as I took a step forward, the shape stepped back. My breath stopped, because I hadn't even moved yet. I stayed completely still. The shape did too. I slowly raised my hand. The shape raised its hand. Same motion, same timing, but something about it felt off. Not like a reflection, not like a mirror, more like a delayed version of me that wasn't delayed at all. I felt a sharp pressure in my chest, because I realized something simple and terrifying. If that thing was me, then I wasn't the original anymore. A soft crunch behind me made me spin around instantly. Nothing, just trees. But now the footprints behind me had changed. They weren't just going backward anymore. They were overlapping, layered, like someone had walked the same path multiple times, pressing deeper and deeper into the same steps. My throat tightened. How many times have I walked this already? The forest didn't answer, but it felt like it knew. I started walking faster. The footprints ahead matched me perfectly. Faster, then slower, then stopping when I stopped. It wasn't just copying. It was anticipating. like it already knew my next decision before I made it. And that's when I noticed something small in the dirt. A broken twig, freshly snapped, but I hadn't stepped on it yet. I looked up slowly. The footprints ahead had already gone over it, meaning that moment had already happened. Before I reached it, my mind tried to reject it. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe I was walking in circles without realizing it. Maybe the forest was distorting distance. But then I saw something that broke that idea completely. The footprints ahead turned sharply left, into thick trees. No trail, no path, just forest wall. But the footprints didn't stop. They went straight into it. Like the trees weren't solid. Like they were just another layer of something I could pass through if I understood it correctly. I stopped at the edge. The forest ahead looked wrong. Not dangerous. Not dark. Just unfinished. Like a rendering glitch in reality. I crouched again and touched the ground. The soil felt normal. Too normal. That was the worst part. Because nothing felt physically wrong. Only logically wrong. My brain couldn't find the error, but it knew something was broken. Behind me, I heard footsteps again. Slow, matching mine. I turned instantly. Nothing there. But the footprints behind me had already formed. Walking backward. Following me. I whispered, "Stop." The forest didn't move. But the footprints stopped instantly. Like they were listening. Like they were waiting for instructions. I tried something different. I stepped sideways off the trail. Into the forest. And for the first time, the footprints hesitated. They didn't follow immediately. They stayed on the trail. Waiting. That gave me a strange, sharp hope. Maybe I could break the pattern. Maybe I wasn't trapped in it yet. I took another step into the trees. The moment my foot left the trail completely, the forest changed. Not visually, but emotionally. The silence got heavier, like the air had more weight now. Behind me, I heard something shift. I turned slightly. The footprints had multiplied. Not 2 sets anymore. Now there were 3. Then 4. All slightly different. All still moving in sync with me. My breathing quickened. I backed up toward the trail. And the moment my foot touched it again, everything reset. Only 2 sets of footprints. Forward and backward. Clean again. Like nothing had happened. I stared at the ground, heart pounding. Okay, I understand less now, I whispered. But I didn't feel alone anymore. I felt observed. Studied. Then I saw it. The footprints ahead stopped completely. No more movement. Just a final pair of steps leading toward the trees. And right at the end of them, something new appeared. A deeper imprint. Heavier. Like something had been standing still for a long time, waiting for me to arrive. Not walking. Not copying. Waiting. I looked up slowly. The forest ahead was darker now. Not because of light, but because something was blocking understanding. And in that moment, I realized something that made my stomach drop. The footprints weren't showing where I had gone. They were showing where I was going to end up standing. I took one slow step forward. And the moment I did, the footprints behind me took one step forward too. But I hadn't moved them. At least not yet. The cabin didn't just appear. It settled into view, like it had been there all along, and my eyes were only now agreeing to see it. I stopped breathing without realizing it. Because the trees around it weren't normal. They didn't sway. They didn't bend. They didn't even react to wind. They stood perfectly still, like painted objects in a scene that forgot to animate them. And right in the middle of that unnatural silence, the cabin waited. Dark wood, clean edges, no rot, no dust, no sign of time at all. That was the first line. My feet didn't want to move, but I still stepped closer. One step, then another. Each crunch of leaves sounded too loud, like the forest was judging me for making noise. And the strangest part, my footprints behind me didn't follow normally anymore. They were delayed, like something was thinking before deciding to copy me. I swallowed hard and kept walking anyway, because stopping felt worse than moving. The closer I got, the more wrong the cabin became. Not broken wrong, not abandoned wrong, perfect wrong. The windows were clean, too clean. No dirt streaks, no spider webs. Even the glass reflected the forest behind me, but slightly off, like the reflection was showing a version of the world that had a different memory. I stepped onto a small patch of cleared ground. No grass, no weeds, just bare earth, flattened like someone had pressed it down carefully over and over. Like waiting footsteps. That thought made my stomach tighten. I noticed something near the door. A welcome mat. That should have been normal. But it was, because it was clean. No dust, no forest debris. And worse, it looked recently stepped on. Fresh indentations in the fabric. Like someone had been standing there just moments ago. I whispered, "No one lives here." But my voice didn't sound confident anymore. Even I didn't believe myself. The door creaked slightly. Not opening, not closing, just shifting, like it had noticed me noticing it. I froze instantly. The forest behind me stayed silent. Too silent. Not even insects. Not even wind. It felt like everything was holding its breath with me. And then, a sound came from inside the cabin. A soft movement. Slow. Careful. Like someone turning their head. My chest tightened. I took one step back. The moment my foot touched the ground, the cabin reacted. Not loudly. Not violently. Just subtly. The light inside the window shifted. Like something had turned its attention fully toward me. I stopped again. It stopped too. That's when I realized something worse than fear. It was aware of timing. I looked around quickly. Trees. Still. Ground. Still. Even my own shadow felt wrong, slightly delayed, like it was processing me after I moved. I whispered to myself, "This isn't a place, it's something else." And then I saw it. A second set of footprints. Not mine. Leading straight into the cabin door. Fresh. Perfectly aligned. Like someone had just walked inside moments before I arrived. My throat went dry. I followed them slowly with my eyes. They didn't come from the forest behind me. They came from nowhere visible, as if they had been placed there after I already arrived. I stepped closer again without meaning to. One instinct. One mistake. The door creaked a little more, just enough to show darkness inside. No hallway. No light. Just a deep, quiet space that felt too large for the outside shape. Something inside moved again. This time clearer. A slow shift of weight. Wooden floor reacting. A person maybe. Or something pretending to be one. I should have turned back. I know that now. But at that moment, I was too curious. Too trapped in the question forming in my mind. If no one lives here, then who is moving inside? I reached the steps, 3 small wooden steps leading up. Each one looked freshly polished, not weathered, not old, like they were cleaned for a visitor who was expected. My hand hovered near the railing, and I felt it, a faint warmth, not heat, not cold, just presence, like something had been gripping this exact spot recently. I climbed the first step. The cabin reacted instantly, not by sound, by stillness. Everything outside seemed to pause deeper. Even the idea of wind disappeared. I climbed the second step. The air got heavier, like the forest was no longer behind me, like it had shifted its attention entirely to what I was doing. Third step. Now I was at the door. The doorknob was slightly tilted, like someone had just let go of it. I stared at it for a long time. My reflection in the metal looked pale. Too pale, like I hadn't blinked in hours. I whispered hello. No answer, but something inside the cabin responded anyway. A soft step. Closer now. I don't remember deciding to open the door. My hand just moved. Slowly, almost carefully. The moment my fingers touched the knob, the forest behind me changed. Not visually, but emotionally. It felt farther away, like distance itself had been rewritten. And then I turned the knob. It clicked softly, too softly, like it had been waiting to be touched. The door opened inward. No resistance, no creak, just acceptance. And inside, warm air. That was the first shock. Real warm air, like a fireplace had been burning moments ago. But there was no fire visible, only darkness, and silence that didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. I stepped inside, and immediately, the forest outside disappeared from sound. Not faded, gone, like I had stepped into a different layer of reality. The door stayed open behind me, but I didn't turn back, because something inside the cabin caught my attention. A table, perfectly centered, with a single object on it. A map. I walked toward it slowly. Every step felt wrong. Not physically, mentally, like my brain was lagging behind my movements. The map on the table was old paper, but clean. No stains, no folds, and it showed the forest, but not how it is, how it should be, with a trail clearly marked, leading directly here, to this cabin. My breathing became uneven, because I recognized something else. A small blue dot on the map, blinking, exactly where I was standing. I stepped closer. The dot didn't move, but the map shifted slightly, like it was adjusting to me being inside it. And then I noticed writing at the bottom, handwritten, fresh ink. It said, "You always arrive." My hands went cold instantly. I looked around the cabin quickly. Corners, dark, windows, still clean. But now I noticed something I didn't before. Scratches on the floor, faint, repeated, like someone had paced the same path inside this room many times. Too many times to count. A sound came from upstairs. Slow footsteps, descending, not rushing, not hiding, just aware. I stepped back instinctively, but the door behind me had already started closing. Not slamming, just closing, like it knew I wouldn't leave. I turned toward it fast, and for a split second, I saw a shadow behind the door glass, standing perfectly still. Waiting. The map on the table shifted again. New writing appeared, right in front of my eyes. Just 3 words. You are early. I froze, because I hadn't even moved yet. And the footsteps upstairs stopped. Like whoever was there had also noticed something. Something about me. Something wrong. The cabin felt smaller now. Not physically, but in perception. Like the walls had moved closer without moving at all. And then the light in the room dimmed slightly. Just enough to make me realize I was no longer the only thing inside it that was watching. And upstairs, something slowly turned toward the stairs and began walking down again. The footsteps were coming down the stairs, slow, careful, like they already knew I was standing exactly where I was supposed to be. I didn't move, because the moment I moved, the cabin seemed to notice. The air itself felt tighter, like it was waiting for permission to react. One step, then another. Wood creaked above me. Not loud, controlled, like whoever it was didn't want to scare me. That thought made my skin go colder than fear should allow. Because fear is messy. This was not. This was organized. I took one slow step backward. The floor behind me answered with a soft creak. The footsteps upstairs paused instantly, like they were listening to my decision. I stopped breathing, and in that silence, I noticed something small. The map on the table had changed again, but I hadn't touched it. I turned my head slowly. The paper now had more writing. Fresh ink, still drying. It said, "You are inside now." My throat tightened, because I hadn't seen anyone write it, and I hadn't heard anything move. But it was there, waiting, like it had always known I would read it at this exact moment. A soft sound came from the kitchen. Not footsteps. A cup being placed down, carefully, like someone didn't want it to make noise. I turned slightly. The kitchen doorway was dark, but not empty dark. Occupied dark. There's a difference. Empty darkness feels open. This felt filled. I whispered hello. My voice sounded wrong in the room, like it didn't belong to the space anymore. No answer, but something shifted inside the kitchen. A chair scraped lightly, just once, then stopped, like whoever was there realized I was listening too closely. I took a step toward the kitchen, slow, controlled. My foot touched the wooden floor, and the sound echoed too cleanly. The cabin echoed like it was recording me, saving me, remembering me. That thought made my chest tighten. Another step, closer now. The kitchen doorway came into full view, and I saw something on the counter. A plate, fresh food, still warm, steam rising slightly. That was the first real shock, because nothing here should have been fresh. I didn't touch it. I just stared. Bread simple, cut neatly. A cup of water next to it, half full, like someone had just taken a sip. My mind tried to explain it. Maybe a hiker. Maybe someone else found this place too. But then I saw the second plate, already eaten from, placed carefully in the sink, washed, drying. I stepped closer without meaning to. And that's when I noticed something worse. There were 2 sets of utensils. Not random. Matched. Like 2 people had been eating here together. Regularly. My stomach tightened, because I was supposed to be alone. A faint sound came from upstairs again. But now it wasn't footsteps. It was movement. Like someone sitting down on a bed. Slowly. comfortably, like they were settling in for something normal. That normality made it worse than anything else, because nothing here was normal. I backed away from the kitchen, and as I did, I noticed something on the wall. A clock, working, ticking, perfectly, but the time was wrong. Not broken wrong, delayed wrong, like it was slightly behind reality. I stared at it longer than I should have, and it ticked once, then paused, just for a second, as if it noticed me noticing it. From upstairs, a voice came. Soft, clear, not loud, just enough to reach me. It said, "You made it earlier than last time." My body froze completely, because the voice sounded familiar. Not like I knew it, but like it knew me, better than I knew myself. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat felt locked. The voice continued calm, almost relieved. "I thought you wouldn't take the right trail this time." That sentence made something twist inside my chest. This time, I slowly looked toward the stairs. The steps were still, waiting. I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence. Then a small sound. A foot-shifting weight on wood upstairs. Then a pause. Then the voice again. Closer now. Not descending. Just leaning into the space between floors. I'm the one who stayed. My mind tried to reject it immediately. No, that didn't make sense. No one stays here. No one should even be able to live here. I took another step back. The door behind me creaked slightly. Not opening, not closing, just aware. Then I noticed something on the table. A second map. I swear it wasn't there before. Same forest, same cabin, but now there were markings I hadn't seen. Paths I had never walked. And at the center, a tiny symbol, a circle, with a line through it. And next to it, written in pencil, "First arrival." My hands went cold, because I wasn't sure what that meant. But my body understood it before my mind did. The footsteps upstairs started again. But now they weren't walking. They were circling, slowly, around the room above me, like someone packing, thinking, watching, measuring. I looked at the kitchen again and saw something new. A jacket hanging on a chair, wet at the edges, like it had been outside recently. Not old, not stored, used. My breathing got sharper, because I hadn't brought anything like that. The voice came again, soft, almost kind. "You're looking at the wrong signs." I turned sharply toward the stairs. "Show yourself," I said. My voice cracked halfway through. Silence followed, long enough to feel like the cabin was deciding what to do with me. Then the footsteps stopped. Everything stopped. Even the clock. Even the faint creak of wood. Absolute silence. And in that silence, I heard something behind me. A chair moving slightly. I didn't turn right away, because I already knew what I would see. But I still turned. The kitchen chair was pulled out, just slightly, like someone had just stood up from it. And on the plate, there was a bite missing. Fresh, warm, as if it had just been taken. My stomach dropped, because I hadn't moved. And I wasn't alone. The voice spoke again, but this time it wasn't upstairs. It was closer, much closer, behind me. And it said, "You always forget I'm already here." My body locked. Slowly I turned my head. And the chapter ended there, not because nothing was there, but because something had finally stopped pretending it was. The moment I turned toward the voice behind me, the cabin changed. Not loudly, not visibly, but in a way my body understood before my mind could explain it. The air tightened, like the room had just closed its attention on me. I didn't see who was behind me, but I felt them there, close enough that my skin reacted before my eyes did. And then silence, a deep, unnatural silence, like even the idea of movement had paused. I forced myself to breathe. One slow inhale, then another. My neck didn't want to turn, but I did it anyway. Slowly, carefully, nothing, no one, just the kitchen behind me. The chair still slightly pulled out, the plate with a missing bite still there. Warm, fresh, like time had just passed through it without permission. But the voice, it was gone. That should have been a relief. It was, because silence now felt like hiding. I stepped backward. My heel hit something soft. I looked down. The jacket on the chair had shifted, just slightly, not falling, not moving, just adjusted, like someone had brushed past me without letting me see them. My chest tightened. "I need to get out," I whispered. But the words sounded weak, even to me. I turned toward the front door, the cabin door, the only exit. It stood there exactly how I remembered it. Half lit, still slightly open, waiting, but now it didn't feel like an exit. It felt like a test. I walked toward it slowly. Every step made the floor creak in a different rhythm. Not random, controlled, like the cabin was responding to my movement in real time. My hand reached for the door handle. Cold metal, too cold, like it hadn't been touched in years, or had just been touched moments ago. I paused, then pulled it open. Outside was the forest, but it wasn't the same forest I had entered. At first glance, it looked normal. Trees, darkness, stillness, but something was off. The spacing between trees wasn't right. Too even, too intentional, like a pattern instead of nature. I stepped forward. My foot hit the ground outside the cabin, and immediately, the sound of the forest changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. It was wrong quiet, like something was playing silence through speakers that didn't fully work. I took another step, then stopped, because the trail was there, right in front of me. But it was the trail I remembered. It was sharper, straighter, and it led somewhere it shouldn't. It led directly back to the cabin door behind me. I turned slowly. The cabin stood exactly where I left it, but now it looked closer, like it had moved a few inches forward without walking. The door was still open, and inside I could see movement. A shadow passing across the kitchen wall. Slow, familiar, like it had been waiting for me to step outside just to confirm something. My throat went dry. "No," I whispered, "I left." I turned back toward the forest trail, and my stomach dropped, because the trail didn't lead forward anymore. It looped, a perfect curve, circling back toward the cabin, like the forest itself had decided the direction of reality had changed. I took a step forward anyway. The trail reacted instantly. It bent slightly, not physically, visually, like it was adjusting itself around my decision. I walked, faster now, leaves crushed under my boots. but every step forward felt like I was not gaining distance, just changing position, because the cabin stayed in view. Always. Not behind me, not ahead, just there, watching, waiting. I stopped again, and so did everything else. The forest froze. No wind, no movement. Even the shadows seemed locked in place. Then I heard it, a soft sound behind me, a wooden creak, slow, familiar. I turned slightly. The cabin door had closed, but I hadn't heard it move. My heartbeat got louder. I walked faster. The trail ahead should have led deeper into the forest, but instead it began to narrow, trees closing in slightly, not aggressively, just enough to guide me, like something was steering me without touching me. I whispered, "This is not real," but my voice felt ignored, like the forest had stopped listening long ago. Then I saw something that made me stop completely. Ahead on the trail, footprints. My footprints. Fresh, leading forward. But they weren't alone. There were backward footprints too, overlapping them, walking in both directions at the same time. My mind froze, because I recognized this pattern. I had seen it before. Inside the cabin, a cold realization hit my chest. The trail wasn't outside the cabin. It was inside it. Or worse, the cabin was inside the trail. I stepped closer to the footprints, and the moment I did, they changed direction. All of them, simultaneously, pointing back toward the cabin. I turned sharply. The cabin was closer again. Too close. Now only a few steps away. The door was open again. I hadn't seen it open, but it was, and inside the lights were on. That was impossible. There was no electricity here. There never had been. I backed away, but the trail behind me disappeared. Not faded, gone, like it had never existed. In its place was only forest wall, dense trees, blocking every direction except one. Forward, toward the cabin. My breath got shallow. "This is a loop," I whispered. But even saying it didn't help, because loops are supposed to repeat. This was correcting itself. The wind picked up slightly. First real movement I had felt in minutes. But it wasn't comforting. It felt like breath, a slow inhale through the forest. I stepped forward unwillingly. The ground under me softened slightly, like it recognized me, like it remembered me. I reached the cabin again. I didn't know how. I didn't walk back. At least, I don't remember walking back. The door stood open, waiting. Inside, the table was still there, the map still on it, but now it had changed again. More writing, more ink, one sentence: "You always return before you leave." My hands shook, because I hadn't touched it. Not this time. A sound came from upstairs. Slow footsteps again, descending, not rushing, not hiding, just certain. I stepped backward instinctively, but the door behind me was already closing. Softly, like it didn't need force anymore, like it knew I wouldn't stop it. I ran forward instinctively, back into the cabin. The moment I crossed the threshold, the door shut behind me, not slammed, final, and the trail outside the window. It wasn't there anymore. Only forest. Still, watching. But now I understood something terrifying. The trail was never outside. It was where I ended up after every attempt to leave. The footsteps upstairs stopped. Silence again. But this silence was different. Heavier, settled, like something had finally finished preparing. And then the voice returned. Soft, right above me, closer than before. You saw it now, it said. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I finally realized. I wasn't trying to escape the forest anymore. I was being returned to it. Again and again, until I stopped calling it leaving. The forum loaded like it had been waiting for me. No logo, no name, just a blank page with old text threads stacked like forgotten thoughts. And the strangest part, it wasn't offline. It was active. I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen over the mouse. The top post was from 7 years ago, but the timestamp had changed. It now said 2 minutes ago. I leaned closer. My heartbeat slowed without permission, because the title of the post wasn't random. It was a hiking route I recognized, one I had planned to take next weekend. I clicked it. The page opened slowly, like it didn't want to. Text appeared line by line, not all at once, like someone was typing it right in front of me. The post started simple. Day 1 on the Pine Hollow Trail. I frowned. Pine Hollow Trail had been closed for years. Officially, but hikers still talked about it online in warnings, not blogs. This wasn't a warning. It was a diary. I scrolled down. The first entry described normal things. Trees, weather, pack weight. Too normal. Too calm. But something felt wrong in the rhythm. The sentences were short, breathing like the writer was still inside the moment, not remembering it, living it. Then I saw the first strange line. The map stopped updating when I crossed the second ridge, but I kept walking anyway. I paused. My fingers tightened on the mouse, because GPS failure is normal in forests. But writing about it like it was a small inconvenience was. There was no fear in the tone, only acceptance, like losing direction was expected. I scrolled further. A photo loaded halfway down the page. Slowly, pixel by pixel, and when it fully appeared, my stomach dropped. It was a forest trail, but not any I knew. The trees were too straight, too evenly spaced, and in the center of the image, a small blue backpack, left on the ground, unzipped, half empty. I zoomed in. My breath caught, because inside the bag was a phone, still on, screen glowing faintly. I checked the caption under the image. It read, "Found someone's gear, no signs of owner nearby." I leaned back slightly. That's when I noticed something small. The username of the post. It wasn't a name. It was a string of numbers, like a system ID. But the profile picture was a blurred face, not edited, just unclear, like the system couldn't decide what the person looked like. I clicked the profile. Against my better judgment, the page loaded instantly this time. No delay. And I saw something that made my throat tight. Dozens of posts, all hiking logs, all from different trails, different years, different countries, but all of them had one thing in common. They were still being updated. Even now, one post caught my eye immediately. Title, "I think I've been on this trail before." It was posted 3 minutes ago. I clicked it. The text appeared slowly again, like it was being written as I read. The trees look familiar. I don't know why. I've never been here before. I blinked. That contradiction hit strangely. Fear without understanding. I scrolled down. Next line. I asked another hiker if they recognized me. They didn't answer. They just kept walking. I frowned. Another hiker. The Pine Hollow Trail had been empty for years. No permits, no visitors. Yet this person was talking like they were surrounded by others. Then the next line appeared, and I stopped breathing. I checked my phone. My last message was sent tomorrow. I stared at it. Read it again. And again. Tomorrow. Not yesterday. Not unread. Tomorrow. That shouldn't even be possible in a law. My chair creaked as I leaned forward. The post continued. I think I'm being followed, but every time I stop, I realize I'm the one behind myself. My skin went cold. I glanced around my room instinctively, like the sentence had reached through the screen. My own reflection in the monitor felt slightly delayed. I shook the thought away. Too much internet. Too much imagination. But the feeling didn't leave. I opened another post. This one was older. 2 days ago. Title: The trail changes when I stop looking at it. I frowned again. The text: When I look straight ahead, it's normal. When I look back, the path is different. Sometimes it's shorter. Sometimes I don't recognize it at all. I paused. That wasn't hiking confusion. That was perception breaking. A small detail caught my eye. A comment under the post. From another account. It said only, "Don't trust forward-facing paths." No username. Just that line. My stomach tightened again, because it didn't sound like advice. It sounded like memory. Shared memory. I clicked the commenter's profile. It opened instantly. Same pattern. More hiking logs. All continuing. All active. And every single one had one strange detail. The hikers never mentioned leaving the forest, only entering it. Then something changed on the screen. A new post appeared at the top of the forum. I didn't refresh. I didn't click anything. It just appeared. Title: Someone is reading me right now. My fingers went numb. The post was empty for a second. Then text started typing. Slowly. Directly. Like it knew I was watching. If you are reading this, you are already on the list of trails. I stepped back from the desk. The chair rolled slightly behind me. The room felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were paying attention. I forced myself to look back at the screen. The text continued. We all thought we were reading stories. We were wrong. My pulse quickened. I whispered, "What does that mean?" The screen didn't answer, but the post kept going. The forest uses this place to remember us. Every post is a return. I frowned. Return. Return from where? Before I could think further, another line appeared. Check your last saved location. I froze. I didn't want to, but I did anyway. My hand moved before my thoughts. I opened my browser history and saw something that made my breath stop. A map search. Not recent, but already marked. Destination: Pine Hollow Trail. Timestamp: tomorrow. My chair hit the floor as I stood up too fast. That couldn't be right. I hadn't searched that. I hadn't even planned it yet. But it was there. Saved. As if it had already happened. The forum refreshed again. New post. Different user. Same pattern. Title. I saw him reading this. My eyes locked on the screen. The text continued. He didn't believe it either. Then one final line appeared. Slow. Deliberate. Too precise. Tell him he has already started walking. My room felt suddenly silent. Not quiet. Empty. Like sound itself had stepped out for a moment. And on my screen, the forum updated again. My own username appeared. Automatically created. No input. No login. Just there. Waiting. And under it, a single empty post box. Already open. Cursor blinking. As if expecting my first entry. The post wasn't supposed to exist. It said it was from yesterday. But I knew that trail had been closed for years. Pine Hollow wasn't just closed. It was erased from official maps after the last search team came back with missing members and broken radios. And yet here it was. A fresh entry. Posted yesterday. My cursor hovered over it like my hand didn't trust my brain anymore. Then I clicked. The page loaded too fast. That was the first warning. Old systems lag, broken forums glitch, dead pages hesitate. But this one opened like it was waiting behind a closed door. Text appeared slowly, line by line. Not typed. Revealed. Like someone lifting a curtain over their thoughts. Title. Day 14, still on Pine Hollow Trail. I frowned immediately. 14 days. That didn't match anything official. No one had ever survived more than a few hours after losing the main path there. That was what the report said. But this writer was still counting days. The first line appeared. I don't remember when I stopped walking in circles. I leaned closer without meaning to. My chair creaked. The room felt smaller suddenly, like the screen was pulling air out of it. Next line. The trees don't change anymore. I think I do. My stomach tightened. That sentence shouldn't make sense. But it did in a way that felt wrong. Like reality shifting slightly out of alignment. I scrolled down slowly. A photo loaded halfway. It was dark. Night vision green. A forest trail. But the strangest part wasn't the trees. It was the shadows. They weren't attached correctly. Some pointed forward, while the light came from behind. I zoomed in. My breath slowed. Something stood in the distance. A shape. Not clear, but human enough to make my chest tighten. The caption below it said, I saw someone I think is me. He didn't respond. I froze. Read it again. And again. He didn't respond. Not I didn't respond. He. My fingers went cold on the mouse. A new line appeared below. If I stop looking at him, he disappears. I blinked. That shouldn't be possible. But my brain immediately created the image anyway. Someone standing behind him. Or in front of him. Or maybe beside him. And vanishing the moment attention moved. I scrolled faster now. The post was getting worse. The calm tone wasn't calming anymore. It felt like denial written carefully over panic. Next entry. I found a trail marker today. It had my name scratched into it. I leaned back slightly. My throat felt dry. Trail markers don't have names. They have symbols, colors, directions, not identities. Then the next line hit harder. It's not new writing, it's old, like it was always there. My screen reflection flickered slightly in my vision. Or maybe my eyes just didn't focus right. I blinked hard. A comment appeared under the post. Not from a moderator. not from another user I recognized, just a blank username. It said, "You're remembering it correctly now." I stopped moving, didn't breathe for a second. Then I looked at the username again. It was empty. No ID. Just a line, like the system forgot to assign it one. I scrolled further down. The post continued. "I tried to leave the trail today." I hesitated. That sentence felt like a turning point, like something important was about to break. Next line. "I walked until the forest stopped letting me walk forward." My skin prickled, because that didn't sound like getting lost. That sounded like resistance, like space itself refusing movement. Then the writer added something that made my hands tense. When I turned back, I saw my footprints already returning before me. I paused, slowly looked down at my own hands, then back at the screen. This wasn't normal hiking confusion anymore. This was pattern recognition breaking. A new image loaded. It took longer this time. A forest path, but the camera angle was wrong. Too low, like it was recorded from someone sitting on the ground. And in the center of the frame, footprints, two directions, forward and backward at the same time. Exactly like the last chapter I read. My stomach dropped. The caption, "I think the trail remembers where I decide not to go." I whispered without realizing. That's not how anything works. But even saying it felt uncertain now. Because the post didn't feel like fiction. It felt like documentation. Then something changed on the page. A new update appeared. Without refresh. Without input. Title, "Someone is reading this from outside." My breathing stopped for a moment. The text below it appeared instantly. No typing delay. No fade in. Just there. "If you can see this, you are closer than I was." I pushed my chair back slightly. The legs scraped the floor. Too loud. Too real. The room suddenly felt too open. Like there were empty corners I hadn't noticed before. The post continued. "Do not trust the timeline of these entries." My eyes narrowed slightly. Timeline. That word didn't belong in a hiking log, but it made my chest tighten anyway. Next line. "Yesterday is not when I wrote this, it's when you found it." I froze completely. Read it again. Slower. My mind resisted understanding it, but the meaning stayed. Stuck. The forum suddenly refreshed itself. Just once. All posts shifted slightly. Order changed. And at the top again. The yesterday entry was still there, but the timestamp had updated again. Now it said, 2 minutes ago. My heart started beating faster. I scrolled back to the profile page. All posts were changing timestamps in real time. Not just this one. All of them. Like the entire forum was breathing. A new comment appeared under the latest post. From a different user. It said only, "He noticed you now." I swallowed hard. My mouth felt dry. Because I hadn't moved. Not physically, but something still felt seen. The original post updated again. Final line appearing slowly. Not instantly this time. Like it wanted attention. Like it was letting me feel it arrive. "If you are reading this, stop checking the forum." I didn't move. I should have closed it. But I didn't. Because something worse than fear was happening now. Curiosity was winning. Next line appeared. "Because the trail doesn't exist until you accept it." My screen flickered once. Just once. And in that flicker, I thought I saw something behind my reflection. A forest shape. Very faint. Too faint to confirm. I leaned closer without thinking. And that's when the final update appeared. No delay. No build-up. Just immediate. You have already read enough to start walking. The page stopped responding. The cursor disappeared. But my browser history didn't. It auto-opened a new tab. A map. Same Pine Hollow Trail. But now marked with a single dot. Blinking. Exactly where I was supposed to begin. And the strangest part, it wasn't waiting for input. It was waiting for arrival. The coordinates were real. That was the first problem. The second problem was worse. They didn't exist on any map I knew, and yet my GPS still accepted them like they belonged. I stared at the screen for a long time, waiting for it to correct itself. It didn't. Instead, it zoomed in. Like it was excited. Like it had been waiting for this destination longer than I had. The forum post was still open on my second monitor. The hiking log. The one that shouldn't be alive. At the bottom of the entry, there was a single line I couldn't stop reading. If you find the coordinates, don't assume they are pointing to a place. I whispered, then what are they pointing to? No answer. Only silence from the screen. But the GPS on my phone buzzed again. New location loaded. No name. Just numbers. I copied them into Google Maps. Nothing. Error. Invalid location. That should have ended it. But my navigation app reacted differently. It didn't reject the coordinates. It processed them. Slowly. Like it was thinking. Then it displayed a route. A long one. Through forest land that was not labeled anywhere. I zoomed out. My stomach tightened. The route crossed borders of known maps, then continued into blank space. White areas. Unrecorded terrain. Officially non-existent zones. I leaned back slightly. That's not real, I muttered. But my phone disagreed. It vibrated again. One word appeared. Proceed. I looked around my room instinctively. Empty. Too normal. But my screen didn't feel normal anymore. It felt like a window. Not into the internet. Into something else. Something that was waiting on the other side of my decision. I clicked Start Navigation. Immediately, the voice activated. Calm. Neutral. Too calm. Proceed north for 300 meters. I frowned. North of what? I wasn't even outside. But the arrow moved anyway. Tracking me. Not my surroundings. Me. I stood up. The room felt slightly different when I did. Smaller. Or maybe more focused. Like attention had shifted inward. I walked toward the window. Outside was just streetlights and empty road. Normal world. But my phone screen didn't match it. It showed trees. Dense forest. Right outside my building. I blinked. Impossible. The GPS voice continued. Turn left. I didn't move. It repeated. Turn left. A pause. Then, user not complying. That sentence made my skin tighten. Because it wasn't asking. It was observing. I shut the app quickly. The screen went black. Silence returned. For 1 second. Then the forum notification popped up again. Same hiking log. New entry. Title. He saw the coordinates. My breath slowed. I didn't open it immediately. I stared at it. Because something inside me already knew what it would say. Against my better judgment, I tapped it. Text appeared slowly. Not typing. Arriving. Coordinates are not places, they are decisions. I frowned. That made no sense. But my chest still tightened at it. Because I understood it emotionally before logically. Next line. When you input them, you agree to the path. I whispered, agree to what path? No reply. But the GPS app reopened itself. Without permission. The route was still there. But now it had changed. It wasn't just pointing forward anymore. It was branching. Multiple paths. All converging. All leading to the same point. A blinking marker deep inside empty space. I zoomed in. My hands felt colder now. The marker wasn't labeled. But beneath it, faint text appeared. Pine Hollow boundary. I froze. That name again. The closed trail. The erased location. My screen flickered slightly. Just once. And for a split second. The map changed. The streets outside my home were gone. Replaced by forest. Not cartoon-like. Not digital. Real. Dense. Breathing. I stepped back from the phone. My heart was faster now. The GPS voice returned. But now it wasn't speaking instructions. It was speaking observation. User proximity increasing. I stared at the phone. What does that mean? I asked. No answer. Only the map zooming closer. Closer to the marker. I tried turning off my phone. Button didn't respond. I pressed harder. Still nothing. Then the screen displayed something new. Navigation cannot be stopped once coordinates are accepted. My throat went dry. I didn't accept anything. But even saying it felt uncertain now. A soft vibration again. Forum updated. New comment under the post. From the same blank user. It said, "You are already closer than I was when I refused." My stomach tightened. Refused what? Refused to go. Or refused to believe. The GPS voice changed tone slightly. Still calm, but now slower. Heavier. Arrival expected in 7 steps. I frowned. Steps. Then I looked at my floor. And my blood went cold. Because faintly, on the wood were marks. Footprints. Fresh. Facing forward. I stepped back instantly. The footprints didn't disappear. They stayed. But now they were joined by another set. Returning. Walking backward. Exactly like the hiking logs described. My breathing quickened. No, that's not possible. But the marks were still there. Real. Physical. The GPS voice spoke again. First step acknowledged. My foot moved. Not because I wanted it to, but because something in me aligned with it. Just slightly. Like gravity had changed direction. I froze mid-step. Heart pounding. What is happening to me? I whispered. The screen answered immediately. Not voice. Text. You are matching the coordinates. My chest tightened. I looked at the phone again. The marker on the map had changed. It was no longer distant. It was closer. Much closer. Another vibration. New message. Step 2 detected. I hadn't moved, but my foot was now slightly forward. Just slightly. Enough to scare me more than anything else so far. Because I didn't remember doing it. The room felt wrong now. Like it was subtly aligning itself with something outside of it. The walls seemed less important. The floor more active. the air heavier, as if everything was sinking to an invisible direction. The GPS voice returned again. Step 3 confirmed. I stepped back fast, or I tried to, but my movement lagged, like the command had already been processed somewhere else. I grabbed my phone and finally managed to close it. Screen went black. Silence, but only for a second. Then my window reflection changed. Not outside. Inside it. The forest was still there. And deeper in the reflection, a faint blinking dot. Waiting. The forum notification appeared one last time. New line. No post this time. Just a message. Coordinates are not places you go to. I stared at it. My breathing slowed slightly. Then the next line appeared. They are places you become part of. My phone vibrated in my hand again. But I didn't look down, because I already knew what it would say next. And somewhere deep in the forest, beyond the map, something had already started counting my steps back. The moment my name appeared on the screen, the room stopped feeling like mine. It wasn't just text. It was recognition. Like something on the other side of the screen had finally looked directly at me. I stared at the forum page without blinking. My name was there. Not as a comment, not as a login, but as a full post title, written in the same format as the missing hikers. Day 1, Kashif Rashid enters Pine Hollow Trail. My stomach dropped so hard it felt physical. I hadn't gone there. Not yet. Not ever. But my name was already inside the system like it had happened. I whispered, "No, that's not possible." The cursor blinked under the post like it was waiting for me to accept it. The text started appearing. Slow. One line at a time. Like someone typing while watching me breathe. He thinks he is reading this for the first time. I leaned back in my chair instantly. My heartbeat spiked, because that line didn't feel like storytelling. It felt like correction, like it was fixing my understanding of reality. The next line appeared. He is wrong. My hands went cold. I looked around my room instinctively. Door closed. Windows shut. Normal space. But it didn't feel normal anymore. It felt referenced, like I was being observed from multiple angles at once. I tried to close the tab. My mouse moved, but the button didn't respond. Not frozen, not lagging, just ignored, like the system had already decided I was staying. The post continued. He will open the trail entry tomorrow. I froze. Tomorrow. That word again. It had been following me since the coordinates, since the forum logs, since everything started feeling slightly ahead of itself. I whispered, "I haven't planned anything." The screen flickered. Once, and then another line appeared. Planning is not required for events already written. My breathing got shallow. I stood up fast. Chair scraped behind me, but the sound felt delayed, like it arrived half a second after I moved. I turned away from the screen. Just for a second. I needed space. Air. Something real. But when I turned back, the post had changed. New section added. Not typed. Already finished. Tomorrow he will check his GPS. My throat tightened, because I had done that before. Before all this. Before the forum. Before the coordinates. But I never thought of it as important. Now it felt like a trigger. The text continued. The GPS will not show distance. It will show compliance. My skin prickled instantly. Compliance. That word didn't belong in navigation. It belonged in control systems. Not travel, not maps. Control. I stepped closer to the screen again, without meaning to. My reflection in it looked slightly off. Not distorted, just delayed, like I was a second behind myself. I blinked hard. It didn't fix it. A new line appeared. He will feel his first step before he takes it. My stomach twisted, because I had felt something like that earlier. The footprints, the shifting floor, the timing mismatch. But I told myself it was coincidence. Now it felt documented. Then something worse happened. A new notification popped up. Not from the forum, from my browser. A system alert. Upload complete. I froze. My eyes locked on the words. What upload? I whispered. But my voice felt uncertain, like I already knew the answer I didn't want to accept. The forum page refreshed automatically. My name was still at the top, but now there was a profile picture. It hadn't been there before. A blurred forest image. Same Pine Hollow trail. Same lighting from the logs, but now slightly closer, like the camera had moved forward. I clicked my name. Against every instinct, the profile opened instantly. Too instantly. No loading. No delay. Like it had been waiting already. A list of posts appeared, but they weren't normal entries. They were timestamps, future dates, and each one had a title, not written in past tense, not present, but inevitable. Day 2, he forgets why he opened the map. My throat tightened. I scrolled down slowly, hands shaking slightly now. Day 3, he stops distinguishing between walking and being led. I whispered no, but my voice didn't feel convincing, even to me. Day 4, he recognizes the trail as memory instead of location. My breathing got heavier, because the words weren't describing fear. They were describing transformation. Then I saw something that made my chest go completely tight. A final entry. Not future, not present, but labeled. Day 0 before reading. I froze. My eyes locked on it. Slowly clicked. The text loaded instantly. And it said, he believes he is reading this for the first time. My stomach dropped, because I had already read that line. But I was reading it again. From a different position. A different layer. The next line appeared. This is the moment he starts updating us. I stepped back fast. Chair hit the desk. Hard. Too loud. Too real. My screen flickered again. And for a split second, I saw something behind the forum interface. Not code. Not design. A forest. Dark. Dense. Watching through the pixels. The post continued. Every action he takes while reading is recorded as future entry. My breathing got uneven. I shook my head slightly. No, I'm just reading. But even that felt uncertain now. Because I had moved. I had reacted. I had changed. A new line appeared. Slower this time. Like it wanted me to feel every word. He just blinked. I stopped. My eyes widened slightly. My breath caught. Because I couldn't remember if I had blinked just now. But my eyes felt dry. Which meant I had. Or maybe I had to. The screen updated again. Blink recorded. My skin went cold instantly. I stepped back from the monitor. Slowly, carefully, like distance could undo something already processed. The forum refreshed itself again. My profile now showed a status: active reader. Below it, a new button appeared. Gray, inactive looking, but labeled clearly. Continue entry. I didn't touch it. I shouldn't have. But my hand moved closer anyway. Not fully controlled. Not fully mine. Just slightly guided. The text on screen changed one last time before I could decide. And it said, "He is about to agree without clicking." My hand froze inches from the mouse. Heartbeat loud. Room silent. And somewhere in that silence, the system added one final line. Not as prediction, but as confirmation. Upload is now synchronizing with his next step. The first thing I saw was the light. A soft, warm glow deep inside a forest that was supposed to be empty. No stations. No personnel. No signal. Just unmonitored land for miles. But there it was, a ranger station shining like it belonged to a road that didn't exist. I stopped walking, because the light wasn't just visible. It felt intentional, like it noticed me first. The forest around me was too quiet. Not natural quiet, the kind that feels edited. Even the wind seemed careful, like it didn't want to disturb something. I checked my map again. Same result. Unmonitored zone. No structures listed. No services. Nothing. But my eyes were still locked on that station. It was real. It had to be. I walked closer. Every step made the light feel stronger. Not brighter, closer. Like it was reducing distance without moving. The building slowly formed out of the darkness. Wooden structure. Old design. But perfectly maintained. No decay. No dust. No signs of abandonment. That was the first thing that felt wrong. A small sign hung near the door. Pine Hollow Ranger Station, active duty. I froze. Active duty. Pine Hollow wasn't active. It wasn't even on modern forest maps. It was erased after the incident reports. I remember reading that somewhere. Something about missing patrols, unanswered radios, people who were never officially logged out of the system. I stepped closer anyway, because there was something worse than fear now. Curiosity that didn't feel like mine. The door was slightly open. Just a crack. Light spilling out like warm breath. I pushed it gently. It didn't resist. It accepted. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. Desk. Radio. Files stacked neatly. A clock ticking like it still trusted time. But the air felt off. Not stale. Not fresh. Just maintained. Like someone had been correcting it. "Hello," I called out. My voice felt too loud. The room didn't react. No echo. No delay. Just absorption. Like the space swallowed sound without sharing it. I walked further in. The radio crackled once. Then silence. Then again. A faint voice came through. Not clear. Not broken. Just distant. Like it was speaking from another version of the same room. Ranger unit still active. I froze. That shouldn't be possible. I leaned closer to the radio. "Hello, can you hear me?" Static answered first. Then a pause. Then something worse. Recognition. "We have your location." My throat tightened instantly. I stepped back. "What do you mean, my location?" The radio didn't respond immediately. Instead, a sound came through. Paper flipping. typing, like someone was updating a file. Then the voice returned. Calmer now. Too calm. You are already assigned. My stomach dropped. Assigned to what? I looked around the room again. And that's when I noticed something on the desk. A folder. Open. Waiting. Like it had been expecting me. I walked toward it slowly. My hand hesitated before touching it. Inside was a page. Printed. Fresh ink. My name at the top. Not handwritten. Not typed by me. Official formatting. Like government documentation. Subject, unregistered entry, active field assignment. My pulse increased. I scanned lower. My breathing slowed as I read. Subject is currently inside Station 4B. I looked up instantly. The room felt different. I had only been here a few minutes, but that sentence made it feel like I had always been here. Like I was confirming something already known. The radio crackled again. Do not leave the station. My body went cold. I whispered, I'm not supposed to be here. But even saying it felt uncertain now. Because the room didn't agree. Nothing here disagreed. A new sound came from behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Controlled. I turned instantly. Nothing. Empty hallway. But the sound didn't stop. It just redistributed. Like it wasn't tied to direction anymore. The radio spoke again. Field personnel confirmed. My eyes widened. What personnel? No answer. But the folder on the desk flipped open by itself. Page 2. Already printed. Already waiting. Assignment status. Accepted via proximity. I stepped back. No, I didn't accept anything. The radio paused, then replied softly. You entered the perimeter. That was all it said. But it sounded like a verdict, not an explanation. The lights flickered once, very small, but enough to change the feeling of the room. Like something blinked. Not the building. Something inside it. The radio suddenly played a tone. Sharp, then stopped. Then a new voice came through. Different tone. Closer. Almost familiar. Welcome back. My chest tightened instantly. Who is this? Silence. Then, you reported in yesterday. I shook my head. No, I didn't. But even my denial felt weak. Because the room didn't react to it. Like it didn't matter. The clock on the wall ticked louder. Each second heavier than the last. I looked at it and realized something strange. The clock wasn't counting forward. It was repeating seconds. Looping the same moment. Over and over. The radio spoke again. A station memory synchronization in progress. My stomach dropped. Memory of what? No response. Just static. Then a soft mechanical sound from beneath the floor. Like something unlocking. I stepped toward the door immediately. My hand reached for the handle, but stopped, because outside the glass window, the forest was no longer still. It was shifting. Subtle movement. Not wind. Not animals. Something rearranging itself. The radio spoke one last time. You are now part of the station. My hand froze on the door handle. My reflection in the glass didn't match my movement. It stayed still a fraction longer, then slowly turned to look at me, even though I hadn't moved yet. The lights inside the station stabilized again. Warm, steady, comforting in a way that felt wrong. The radio went silent, But before it fully cut out, one last line came through. Soft, almost gentle. Next ranger will arrive shortly. And that's when I realized the worst part. The folder on the desk had changed again. A second name had appeared under mine. Fresh ink. Still drying. And it wasn't mine anymore. Midnight changed the station. I didn't plan to stay in that ranger building after dark. But something about the place made leaving feel postponed. Like the forest outside had agreed I should remain until further notice. So I stayed. And when the clock finally hit 12:00 m, the radio clicked on by itself. No static. No warning. Just a clear channel opening like a door unlocking. I was sitting at the desk when it happened. My body froze instantly. Because the radio wasn't supposed to have power at night. It wasn't supposed to have power at all. Not in an unmonitored zone. A voice came through first. Male. Shaking. Breathing too close to the mic. Hello, is anyone there? I leaned forward slowly. My throat tightened. That voice didn't sound like a ranger. It sounded like someone trapped somewhere far worse than a forest. State your location, I said instinctively. Then I stopped myself, because I wasn't supposed to respond. There was no dispatch, no network, but the radio answered anyway. Not to me, to itself. I'm in the service tunnel under Route 9. I frowned instantly. Route 9 wasn't anywhere near this forest. It was miles away. City-side infrastructure. Tunnels, traffic systems, maintenance access. Not wilderness. Not Pine Hollow. I stood up slowly. Can you repeat that? The voice on the radio got louder. Panicked now. The tunnel collapsed, but I can still hear people above me. They keep walking. They don't respond. A cold feeling moved through my chest. Because that wasn't missing hiker behavior. That was urban emergency language. Completely unrelated to this place. I looked at the radio like it was lying. But it wasn't speaking like fiction. It was speaking like a live feed. Like a distressed channel someone forgot to shut off. Or something else opened it for them. Then a second voice came through. Female. Calm at first. Too calm. This is Cabin 14. We're reporting structural movement again. I froze. Cabin 14. That wasn't a forest designation. That sounded like residential emergency response. My grip tightened on the desk. The first voice came back, overlapping. I think the tunnel is repeating itself. We already walked this section, twice. The female voice responded immediately. We're experiencing similar conditions. The walls are updating. My breath slowed. Updating. Walls don't update. Systems do. I stepped closer to the radio. What frequency is this? I whispered. No answer came to me. But both voices kept talking to each other. Not to me. Like I wasn't even part of the conversation. The tunnel man spoke again. I saw a ranger station sign down here. My stomach tightened instantly. The female voice responded. We have no ranger stations in this zone. A pause. Then, but we found one anyway. My skin prickled. I looked around the room. The same room that had felt normal yesterday. Now it felt like it was listening harder. Even the walls seemed slightly more attentive. The radio crackled again. A third voice appeared. Different tone. Younger. I think I'm inside the forest, but I can still see my apartment door. I froze. That didn't make sense at any level. Forest and apartment shouldn't coexist in any emergency system. The tunnel man responded first. "You shouldn't be hearing us." The apartment voice replied instantly. "But I am." Then a pause. Long, heavy, like everyone suddenly realized something at once. The female voice whispered, "Are we all in the same place?" Silence followed that question. Even the radio itself seemed unsure how to continue. Then the tunnel man said something that made my stomach drop. "There's a ranger station in my tunnel." My eyes widened instantly. I stepped back from the desk. "No," I muttered. "That's not possible." But the radio didn't care what I thought. The apartment voice returned, more shaky now. "There's a tunnel inside my living room wall." The female voice added, "There are apartment lights between the trees." I backed away from the desk slowly. My mind started rejecting everything. But the radio was building a pattern. Not random distress. Not separate incidents. Something shared. Something overlapping. I whispered, "What is this frequency?" The radio responded immediately. Not with voices. With a single automated tone. Then a line of text printed on the emergency log sheet beside it. I hadn't noticed the printer before. It was active. Cross-environment signal synchronization active. My throat went dry. I looked at the paper, then back at the radio. It wasn't broadcasting calls. It was merging them. The tunnel man screamed suddenly through the speaker. "The exit sign says Pine Hollow now." The female voice followed immediately. "Our evacuation route leads into forest coordinates." The apartment voice. "My door is opening into trees." I stepped back fast. Chair hit the floor behind me. Loud. Too loud for how silent everything else felt. Because now I understood the direction of this. Not separate emergencies. One collapse. Different interpretations. Same origin. The radio suddenly went quiet. All voices stopped. Just like that. Complete silence. I stood still. Waiting. Breathing shallow. Then the radio clicked again. Only one voice now. Calm. Neutral. System-like. Night synchronization complete. My heart pounded. "Synchronization of what?" I whispered. No answer. The printer beside it activated again. Paper slowly came out. Fresh. Still warm. I grabbed it immediately. And my stomach dropped instantly. It wasn't a report. It was a map. But not of geography. It was a layered diagram. Forest paths overlapping highways. Highways overlapping apartment blocks. Apartment blocks inside tunnels. Tunnels inside ranger station. All stacked. All connected. All rung. And at the center, one blinking point. Labeled. Receiver location. My hands started shaking. Because the blinking point was not on the map. It was on the legend. It was on the explanation itself. The radio spoke again behind me. Receiver confirmed active. I turned slowly. My mouth went dry instantly. Because the radio wasn't just broadcasting anymore. It was pointing. Not physically, but conceptually. Like everything it spoke about now included me. I whispered, "I'm not part of this." The radio responded instantly. "You are the station now." My chest tightened. I took one step back. Then another. The room felt different again. Not physically changing, but structurally. Like its meaning was being rewritten in real time. Desk no longer desk. Radio no longer device. Me no longer observer. The female voice suddenly returned. Soft. Close. We can hear the ranger now. The tunnel man. He's inside the station. The apartment voice. He is the station. I shook my head quickly. No, I'm not. But even saying it felt delayed. Like the sentence was already outdated when I spoke it. The radio crackled one last time. Then the system voice returned. Final. Clear. Receiver identity update complete. I froze. My reflection in the dark window flickered slightly. Just once, but enough to make me wonder if I was still standing where I thought I was. And then the radio added something softer, almost like instruction. Not warning, not threat, just continuation. Next transmission will begin from within you. My name was already in the logbook, but I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't even stayed in the station for a full day. And yet page after page there it was. Kashif Rashid, field observation assigned. My hands went cold the moment I saw it, because the handwriting wasn't recent. It looked older than the building itself. I flipped the logbook again. Slow, careful, like the paper might react if I moved too fast. Every page had entries before my arrival. Not days, not hours, but decisions I hadn't made yet. Entry 1. Subject arrives at station, appears confused but compliant. I froze. I hadn't been compliant. I had been terrified. But the sentence was written like a report after observation. Not during. After. I turned the page. My breathing started to feel louder in the quiet room. Entry 2. Subject attempts to deny assignment status. My throat tightened. That was exactly what I had done. But I hadn't said it out loud. At least I didn't think I did. I looked toward the empty hallway behind me. The station felt smaller now, like the walls had moved closer while I wasn't paying attention. Entry 3. Subject shows resistance to synchronization process. My stomach dropped slightly. Synchronization. That word again. It was in the radio logs too. Like everything here was part of the same system. A system I didn't remember joining. I flipped faster now. Paper edges scraping my fingers. Entry 4. Subject hears first external broadcast at 00:00 hours. My chest tightened. That was true. The radio had turned on at midnight. But this entry made it sound planned. Like it was a scheduled moment. Not a coincidence. I whispered, "This is not possible." But the logbook didn't care. It continued without me. Entry 5. Subject begins questioning reality alignment within station perimeter. My eyes widened slightly, because I had not said those exact words. But I had felt them, and now they were here, written down like data. I closed the book for a second, just to breathe, just to reset my thoughts. But when I opened it again, a new page had appeared. Fresh ink, still slightly darker than the rest, like it had just finished drying. Entry 6. Subject is now reading the logbook. I stopped breathing for a second. My fingers froze on the page. My heart kicked harder in my chest, because that entry was happening right now. I stepped back from the table slowly. "No," I muttered. "This is not real." But even as I said it, the logbook added another line. Without movement, without sound, just there. Denial phase detected. My skin went cold. I looked around the station again. The radio was silent now, but that silence felt worse than the broadcasts. like everything had already been said, and I was just catching up. I forced myself to turn another page, hands slightly shaking now. Entry 7. Subject hears secondary station voice at 01:12 a.m. My eyes widened slightly. That hadn't happened yet. At least I thought it hadn't. But time here didn't feel stable anymore. Entry 8. Subject will attempt exit procedure at 01:30 a.m. I froze. My throat tightened. I hadn't tried to leave yet. But suddenly, I wasn't sure if I had already planned it without realizing. The logbook felt heavier in my hands now. Like it didn't want to be closed. Like it was more important than me. I turned another page slowly. Entry 9. Exit attempt will fail due to perimeter recognition. My stomach dropped. Perimeter recognition. Not locks. Not barriers. Recognition. Like the forest itself would decide. I whispered, "This is predicting me." But the next line changed that thought immediately. Correction, subject is not being predicted. Subject is being recorded. I stepped back fast. Chair scraped behind me. The sound felt too loud. Too real. Like the room was reminding me I still existed physically. I looked at the walls. For a second, I thought I saw something faint. Marks, like writing behind the paint. But when I blinked, it was gone. Or maybe it had never been visible in the first place. The logbook flipped by itself. One page forward. I didn't touch it. No wind. No movement. Just decision without cause. Entry 10. Subject recognizes pattern, but cannot exit system due to participation. My breathing slowed. Participation. I hadn't agreed to anything. But every step I had taken here had been inside the station. Inside the system. I whispered, "I never agreed." The logbook responded instantly. Agreement not required. Presence is consent. My chest tightened. I looked at the door. For the first time, it didn't look like an exit. It looked like an interface. A place I could interact with. Not escape through. Entry 11 appeared slowly. Like it wanted me to feel it forming. Subject begins recognizing himself in previous entries. I frowned. What does that even mean? But my voice felt weaker now. Less certain. I flipped back to earlier pages. And that's when I noticed it. Small differences. Not in content. In perspective. The handwriting wasn't just reporting me. It was remembering me. As if I had already been here. Different versions of me. Different stages. All documented. All incomplete. Entry 12 appeared at the bottom of the page. Subject reaches realization threshold. My heart beat faster. Realization threshold. That didn't sound like observation. That sounded like activation. I stepped away from the table again. But my legs felt slightly delayed. Like my movement had to pass through something before reaching reality. The radio suddenly crackled once, even though it had been silent. A faint whisper came through. Not words, just breath. Close. Inside the speaker. The logbook turned one final page by itself. And what I saw made my stomach drop completely. A full page entry. Centered. Perfectly aligned. With my name at the top again. But this time, it wasn't describing arrival. It was describing departure. Subject Kashif Rashid will leave Station 4B at 01:30 a.m. My eyes widened. I stepped back slowly, because I suddenly realized something worse. That wasn't prediction. That was scheduling. The final line appeared beneath it. Slow, deliberate, like it was speaking directly into my thoughts. And the station will leave with him. The lights flickered once, very softly, but enough to make me feel like the building had just blinked. And somewhere outside the window, the forest didn't look like it was waiting anymore. It looked like it was confirming. The station wasn't empty when I woke up. That was the first lie. The second was worse. It looked like I had been working all night. My boots were still near the door. My jacket hung on the chair. And the radio, it was already on. Soft static breathing through the room like it had never been off. I stood there for a full minute, not moving, just watching the station behave like I had never stopped existing inside it. The logbook on the desk was open. A fresh page was already filled in. My handwriting, not mine, but identical. Night shift completed, no anomalies reported. My throat tightened instantly. I whispered I didn't write this, but the room didn't react. It didn't deny me. It just continued existing. Like my confusion was not relevant data. I walked closer slowly. The paper was still slightly warm. That shouldn't be possible. Paper doesn't hold heat unless something recent touched it, or something inside it was still active. I flipped the page. New entry. Same handwriting. Same tone. Subject performed routine perimeter check at 02:10 a.m. My stomach dropped. I hadn't gone outside at 2:10 a.m. I would remember that. I had been sitting in the chair. I think, at least I thought I had been. I looked at the chair behind me. The cushion was slightly pressed down, like someone had been sitting there longer than me, or instead of me. The radio crackled once, not broadcasting, just acknowledging. A soft mechanical breath came through. Then silence again. I stepped back. No, I said quietly. This didn't happen. But even as I said it, I felt something worse. Uncertainty. Because the room didn't feel like it was correcting me. It felt like it was ignoring my version entirely. A faint sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Controlled. Familiar. My body stiffened instantly, because I recognized the rhythm. It matched mine. Exactly. I turned toward the hallway. Empty. But the sound continued. Approaching the desk. Approaching the logbook. Approaching my position. The radio flickered on again. A voice came through. Soft. Calm. Too calm. Shift complete. Ranger unit still active. I swallowed hard. Who is this? I asked. No answer. Just breathing on the line. Then another voice layered in. Mine, but not mine. All systems stable. My chest tightened instantly. I stepped back fast. Chair scraped the floor. But the sound came a fraction too late. Like the room registered it after it happened. I shook my head. No, that's not me. But the radio responded immediately. Identity confirmed. My skin went cold. Confirmed by who? Silence. Then the logbook flipped itself again. New entry. Still my handwriting. Still wrong. Subject unaware of replacement cycle continuation. My breath stopped for a second. Replacement cycle. That phrase didn't belong in any Ranger protocol. That belonged somewhere else. Something automated. Something repeating. I grabbed the logbook and slammed it shut. Hard. Too hard. The sound echoed strangely, like it hit multiple rooms at once. But the station only had one. At least I thought it did. The lights flickered once, very small, but enough to change how the shadows behaved. Because for a split second, I saw two versions of me in the room. One standing, one sitting, but when the light stabilized, only one remained. I wasn't sure which one was real. The radio clicked again. This time the voice was clearer. Closer. You are relieved from shift duty. My throat tightened. Relieved. That sounded like release. But the tone didn't match relief. It matched replacement. I stepped toward the door. I'm leaving, I said. But even saying it felt weak. Like I was reporting a decision already rejected. The radio responded instantly. You already left. I froze. What? No answer. Just static. Then silence. I turned slowly toward the mirror on the wall. A small one near the equipment shelf. My reflection was there. But it wasn't delayed this time. It was different. More stable. Too stable. It blinked first. Not me. I didn't move. It did. Then it tilted its head slightly, like it was observing me from the inside of the glass. My heart pounded harder. I stepped back. The reflection stayed where it was, watching, waiting, like it had finished its shift and was just staying behind. The logbook reopened itself again, even though I hadn't touched it. New page. Final entry for the night. Replacement successful. Subject transferred to observation layer. My stomach dropped instantly. What does that mean? I whispered. No answer from the station. But the reflection in the mirror smiled slightly. Just barely. The radio crackled one last time. A different voice came through. Calm. Familiar. Too familiar. It sounded like me. But older. Smoother. More certain. You can rest now. I shook my head quickly. No, I'm still here. The voice paused, then replied softly. Not for long. The lights dimmed slightly. Not off. Just less important. Like they were stepping back from the conversation. Like the station no longer needed full visibility of me. I looked at my hands. For a second, they didn't feel fully responsive. Not numb. Not frozen. Just slightly delayed. Like instructions were coming from somewhere else first. The reflection in the mirror stood up. Even though I didn't move. It adjusted the radio behind it. Like it knew where everything belonged. Like it had done this before. The logbook flipped again. One final entry appeared. But this time, it wasn't in handwriting. It was printed. Machine clean. Official. New shift assigned. Kashif Rashid Observer Unit. My chest tightened. I whispered, observer of what? The station didn't answer. But the mirror did. Softly, calmly, like it had been waiting for me to ask. Of the one replacing you. The radio static deepened. And for the first time, I realized the station wasn't running without me. It was running as me. And I wasn't sure anymore which version of me had already signed the next shift. It showed up at 2:17 a.m. A cabin rental. Too cheap to be real. No reviews. No host name. No location history. Just one photo. And a listing that felt like it was waiting for me specifically. I remember staring at the screen longer than I should have. The cabin looked normal at first. Wooden structure, deep forest behind it, soft yellow light in the windows. But something about it felt staged, like the image wasn't taken, like it was assembled. The listing title was simple: Quiet Forest Stay, instant booking available. No city, no map pin, no address, just a button. Book now. I whispered to myself, where is this place even located? No answer, of course. The page didn't care about questions. It only cared about decisions. I clicked anyway. That was the first mistake. The second mistake was how fast it confirmed. No payment delay. No verification. No loading screen. Just a single line. Reservation confirmed. My stomach tightened. That's it, I muttered. No email. No receipt. Nothing in my inbox. Just silence. Like nothing had actually been recorded. Except I knew it had. Somewhere. A strange detail caught my eye then. The listing updated slightly. Without refreshing. The cabin image changed. Just a little. Now the lights inside were on in one extra room. A room I hadn't noticed before. I leaned closer. My screen reflection looked tired. Too tired. Like I had already been through something I didn't remember. I opened the listing details again. Still nothing. No owner. No host profile. But at the bottom, a line I swear wasn't there before. Check-in begins when you arrive. I blinked. That doesn't make sense, I said out loud. But the words stayed on the screen, like they had always been there, waiting for me to notice. I tried to close the tab, but the button didn't respond. Not frozen, not lagging, just uninterested in leaving. My cursor moved again on its own, hovering over a new option. Directions. I didn't click it. I swear I didn't. But it opened anyway. A map loaded. Slowly. Uncomfortably slowly. Like it didn't want to be seen too quickly. At first it showed normal terrain. Roads. Familiar forest routes. Then the map began to blur at the edges. Like reality was losing resolution. And then I saw it. A destination marker. But not labeled. Not named. Just coordinates that didn't match anything I knew. No town nearby. No road connection. Just space. I zoomed out. My heart started beating faster. The marker stayed fixed, but the map around it changed every time I adjusted it. Like the world couldn't decide where that place belonged. I whispered, "That's not real." But the screen flickered once, and the marker moved slightly, as if it heard me. My phone buzzed at the same moment. A notification, but not from any app I had installed. Just a blank alert. No icon. No sender. Only text. Arrival expected in 6 hours. My throat tightened instantly. I hadn't booked anything that involved arrival. I had only clicked. That was all. Just curiosity. I stood up from my chair. The room felt quieter now, like even the air was listening for something I hadn't done yet. I tried searching the listing again, but it was gone. Completely. No history. No cache. No trace. Even my browser history skipped over it like it never happened. But I knew it happened, because the confirmation was still open in my mind. Not on screen. Somewhere deeper. Like memory itself had saved it differently. I tried telling myself it was a glitch, a bad website, a broken listing. But then my phone buzzed again. Another message. Same senderless format. Same blank identity. You will forget the route. Do not resist it. My hand went cold instantly. I dropped the phone on the table. It didn't break. It just stopped vibrating, like it was done speaking. I went to check my email. Nothing, not even spam. But my browser history had one new entry, added after I closed everything. Cabin rental active session. My breath slowed. I closed everything, I whispered. But the words didn't care. They stayed there. Quiet, confident. I sat back down. My thoughts started feeling unstable. Like they were not fully mine anymore. Like something was pressing lightly on the edges of my decisions. The map reopened by itself. This time it wasn't blurred. It was clearer. Too clear. And the route line appeared. A thin path stretching into deep forest. But the strange part was, the forest wasn't connected to any road. It just existed. Waiting. I leaned closer without realizing. My eyes followed the route. It didn't follow geography. It followed something else. Something like intention. A final message appeared. No vibration this time. Just text fading in slowly. You are already on your way. I shook my head fast. No, I'm still here. But my voice didn't feel convincing anymore. Even to me. Because that's when I noticed something wrong. My jacket was already on. I don't remember putting it on. My shoes were tied. Tighter than I usually tie them. My door was slightly open. I didn't open it. At least I didn't think I did. And my phone screen was no longer showing the rental. It was showing a live image of a forest road. Empty. Waiting. Like it had already started recording me before I left. I whispered, "What is happening?" But the answer wasn't on the screen. It was in the reflection of the window. A faint shape of a cabin behind me, even though I hadn't gone anywhere yet. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I had just seen the rental online, or if I had already accepted it somewhere I couldn't remember. The first time I saw him, I thought he was a ranger. He stood at the cabin door before I even knocked, like he already knew the exact second I would arrive. He opened it slowly. No surprise on his face. No questions. Just a calm look that felt rehearsed or remembered. And then he said the same words every time, even though I swear I never met him before that moment. "Welcome back." My throat tightened the first time I heard it, because I wasn't back. I had never been here before, at least not in a way I could remember. The forest behind me was still moving slightly in the wind, but the cabin felt still. Too still, like it had paused just for this interaction. I stood there for a moment. I think you've got the wrong person," I said. My voice didn't sound confident. It sounded borrowed. The man didn't react. He just stepped aside, like my words were part of a script he had already read, not something he needed to respond to. "Come in," he said softly. Same tone, same calm, like urgency didn't exist in his world. I should have left. That's the part my mind keeps replaying. I should have turned around immediately. But something about him made movement difficult. Not physical force. Something quieter, like expectation. I stepped inside. The cabin smelled clean. Too clean for a place this deep in the forest. No dust. No decay. No signs of isolation. Just warmth waiting for someone who hadn't earned it. The man closed the door behind me. slowly, carefully, like sealing something that had already been completed. "Do I know you?" I asked. He paused for a second. Just one, then nodded slightly. "Yes, that was it. Nothing more. No explanation. Just certainty." I laughed nervously. It came out wrong. Too sharp. Too nervous. "That's not possible," I said. "I just arrived." He looked at me for the first time like I was the one confused. Not him. Like my statement didn't match the version of reality he was using. "You always say that," he replied. My stomach dropped instantly. "What do you mean always?" But he already turned away, walking toward the kitchen like the conversation had ended. Not because it was resolved, but because it was predictable. I followed him slowly. Every step inside the cabin felt slightly delayed, like the floor reacted after I touched it. He poured water into a glass, hands steady, no hesitation, no awareness of my confusion. Just routine. "You were expecting me?" I asked again. He nodded without looking at me. "Yes." My throat tightened. "Why?" This time he stopped, just for a second, then placed the glass down carefully, like the answer required precision. "Because you always come," he said. I froze. That sentence didn't make sense. Not logically, not physically, not in any version of time I understood. "I don't come here," I said. My voice cracked slightly. "I've never been here before today." He finally turned toward me fully. And that's when I noticed something strange. He didn't look surprised. He looked patient, like someone correcting an error for the 100th time. "You say that every time," he repeated. Same words, same tone, no variation. Like repetition wasn't a sign of confusion. It was structure. My heartbeat started getting louder. I looked around the cabin. That's when I noticed small details I missed before. A backpack in the corner. Mine. Same color. Same tear on the strap. I frowned. "That's not mine," I said quickly. But my voice didn't sound convinced anymore. Even I didn't believe it fully. The man didn't react. He just said, "It was left last time." My mouth went dry. "Last time." He nodded again. Calm. Always calm. Like emotion was unnecessary for accuracy. I walked toward the backpack slowly. My hands felt colder the closer I got. When I touched it, it felt familiar. Too familiar. Like muscle memory recognized it before I did. I opened it. Inside were things I didn't pack, but things I absolutely would have packed if I had been planning this journey. Maps, notes, a flashlight, even a small recording device labeled with my name. My name was written on everything. Not recently, but repeatedly. Different handwriting styles, different moods, different versions of me. I stepped back. "No," I whispered. "This doesn't make sense." The man watched me quietly, then said something that made my stomach drop even harder. "It makes sense after the third arrival." I turned toward him instantly. "What third arrival?" He paused, just a fraction longer this time, like he was checking internal records. Then answered, "Your third." My chest tightened. I shook my head fast. "I've only been here once." He tilted his head slightly. Not disagreement, not correction, just observation. Like I had said something incomplete. "You remember only the first," he said. My hands went slightly numb. What does that mean? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the window, looked outside. The forest was still there, but now it felt closer, like it had moved slightly forward. You arrive, he said quietly. You question, you leave. He paused, then added, and you return. I felt a strange pressure in my chest, like something inside me was trying to align with that statement. Against my will. I would remember coming back, I said. But even as I said it, I wasn't fully sure anymore. The man turned back toward me, and for the first time, there was something almost like sadness in his expression, but not empathy, more like repetition fatigue. You don't remember the return, he said, because it doesn't happen the same way. I took a step back. The cabin felt smaller now, not physically, conceptually, like the idea of space was shrinking. Then how does it happen? I asked. My voice was quieter now, less controlled. He pointed gently toward the door. Through arrival. My stomach dropped instantly. That doesn't make sense. He nodded again. I know. Silence filled the cabin, but it didn't feel empty. It felt occupied, like something unspoken was standing between every word. Then he said something that changed everything. Softly, almost casually. Last time you tried to leave earlier. I froze. What happened? He looked at me for a long moment, then answered. You didn't make it outside the first tree line. My breathing slowed. The forest outside the window suddenly felt different. Not natural, not random, but aware. I stepped closer to the door again. My hand hovered near the handle. The man didn't stop me. He never did. That wasn't his role. But before I touched it, he spoke one last time. Calm, final, familiar. You can try again, he said. But you always come back before you finish leaving. My fingers touched the door handle. And for a second, I wasn't sure if I was opening the cabin or arriving inside it again. My hand was already on the door when I realized something was wrong. Not outside, not in the forest, inside the moment itself. Because I didn't remember deciding to open it. I only remembered the feeling of already starting, like the action had been chosen before my thought caught up. The man stood behind me, still calm, still watching, like he already knew what would happen next. Not guessing, not waiting, just observing a repeat. You can try, he said softly. Same tone as before. No warning in it. No fear. Just certainty. I pulled the door open. Cold air hit my face instantly. The forest outside looked normal. Too normal. That was the first problem. Because after everything I had seen, normal felt staged. I stepped forward. My foot touched the ground outside the cabin. And for a brief second, everything felt real again. My breathing, my body, the wind. All of it returned at once, like I had finally escaped something heavy. I turned slightly, just to confirm I was out. But the cabin behind me looked wrong. Not distorted, not broken, just slightly earlier, like it hadn't finished existing yet. I frowned. What is that supposed to mean? I whispered. But I didn't wait for an answer. I started walking, away from the cabin, into the forest. The ground felt familiar. Same leaves, same uneven dirt, same quiet pressure in the air. but something about it didn't change as I moved. Like the world wasn't updating properly. I walked for maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. Then I saw it. The cabin again, in front of me, perfectly placed, like I had never moved at all. I stopped. My breath caught instantly. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." But it was there. Same window light. Same wooden frame. Same door. Waiting. I turned around fast. The forest behind me should have shown distance, direction, progress. Instead, the cabin was there too. Behind me. Same position. Same angle. Same light. My chest tightened. I stepped back. Slowly. Carefully. But no matter where I looked, the cabin was always facing me. Like it had no backside anymore. The forest stopped feeling like space. It started feeling like repetition. A loop that forgot to change scenery. I whispered, "This is not the way out." My voice sounded weaker than I expected, like it was already being recorded instead of spoken. I forced myself to move again. Left direction this time. Then right. Then straight. Each step heavier than the last. Each movement less meaningful. And every time I stopped, the cabin was there. Not moving. Not chasing. Just already present. Like it didn't need to follow me. Because I never actually left its range. A strange thought entered my mind. What if I never walked away at all? What if I was still standing in front of the door, just thinking I had left? I shook my head fast. No, I walked, I felt it. But even that memory felt unstable now. Like it was being edited in real time. The wind changed suddenly. Not direction. Behavior. It stopped reacting to me. Like I had become irrelevant to its pattern. I looked at the trees. They weren't swaying the way they should. Not frozen. Not still. Just inconsistent. Like different frames of time were overlapping. Then I heard something behind me. A soft click. Wood. Door. I turned instantly. The cabin door was open again. Even though I had closed it. Even though I had left it behind. And standing in it was the man. Same posture. Same calm face. As if I had never left. He raised his hand slightly. Not waving. Not calling. Just acknowledging arrival. "Welcome back," he said. My stomach dropped instantly. "I didn't come back," I said quickly. "I left." He nodded. "I know." That answer made my skin go cold. Because it didn't deny anything. It just accepted contradiction. Like contradiction was normal here. I stepped back again. The forest around me shifted slightly. Not visually. Structurally. The distance between trees changed without moving. Like space itself was breathing. I turned around fast. The cabin was behind me again. Same position. Same light. Same impossible certainty. My voice broke slightly. "What is happening?" But no answer came from the forest. Only from the cabin. The man spoke again. "Calm. Always calm. You exited correctly." I frowned. "But I'm still here." He nodded. "Yes." Silence. That was it. No correction. No explanation. Just acceptance of impossibility. I stepped toward the cabin again. Slowly. Because I needed something stable. Something I could test. Something that wouldn't change every time I looked away. As I reached the door, my hand hesitated, just for a second, and in that second, the world shifted. Suddenly, I was inside the cabin, standing exactly where I started, facing the same door, the same man, the same moment. My breath stopped. I looked at my hand, still on the handle, but now it wasn't outside. It was inside. I whispered I didn't move. The man nodded. "You did." I shook my head fast. "No, I remember leaving." He stepped aside slightly and pointed toward the window. "Then why are you here again?" I turned, and outside the glass, I saw myself, standing in the forest, looking at the cabin, confused, breathing heavily, trying to understand something I was already inside. My stomach dropped instantly. "That's not me," I whispered, but the man spoke quietly behind me. "It is you before arrival." I turned back to him. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the table, like everything was normal again, like nothing had changed. Then he said the worst thing yet. "You only think you left." I stepped back slowly. My reflection in the window outside turned its head. But I didn't move. Not in this version of me. The cabin felt tighter now. Not physically, chronologically. Like time had folded too many versions of me into the same room. And for the first time, I understood the pattern. Every exit wasn't leaving. It was just returning to the first moment, where I believed I had arrived. The man looked at me one last time and said softly, "Try again if you want." A pause. Then, "But you will always open the same door." I didn't understand it at first. The laptop screen was still open on the cabin listing. That same cheap rental, that same empty forest photo. No owner, no reviews, no past. But something had changed. The words were different now. Not the price, not the dates. My name was there, right under the title. Hosted by Kashif R. My hand went cold before my brain caught up. I stared at it, waiting for it to correct itself, like a glitch, like a loading error. It didn't change. Behind me, the cabin stayed quiet, too quiet. Even the wind had stopped like it was listening. I slowly turned my head toward the window. The trees outside were still. Not gently still. Wrong still. Like a paused video. I shut the laptop. The moment the screen went dark, the room felt smaller, closer, like the walls had leaned in a few inches when I wasn't looking. I told myself I needed to leave. Right now, no thinking, no checking anything else. I grabbed my bag, and that's when I saw it. My bag was already packed. Not how I packed it. Neat folds, clean zipper lines. Even the items inside were arranged in a way I don't remember doing. My toothbrush was dry, but I had used it last night. I stepped back. The floor creaked under me, and the sound felt delayed, like the cabin heard it late. Then I heard something worse. A notification sound. From the laptop. I hadn't opened it again, but it turned back on by itself. The screen glowed in the dark room like an eye opening. One new message. No sender name. Just, "Welcome back." My throat tightened. I didn't sit down, but my body did anyway, like something pulled the strength out of my legs. The message expanded. A new page opened. The listing page. But now it looked updated. Photos of the cabin were the same, but cleaner, sharper, almost recently taken. And then I saw it. A new review. Posted 2 minutes ago. He always returns, Quiet guest, good worker, keeps the listing updated. My breath stopped. I didn't write that. I stood up so fast the chair fell back. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I walked to the door. My hand touched the handle. It was warm, like someone had just used it. I pulled it open. The forest was there, but it didn't look like before. The path I arrived on was gone. Instead, there was a wooden walkway leading deeper into trees that looked too aligned, too arranged, like they were placed, not grown. I stepped out anyway, and the moment my foot touched the ground, my phone buzzed. I froze. Slowly, I looked at it. A GPS app was open by itself, tracking location. But the map didn't show the forest I was in. It showed a small icon, a cabin, and the label under it made my stomach drop. Current position, home base. I whispered, that's not possible. Behind me, the cabin door clicked shut. I turned fast. No wind, no force, just closed, like it decided I was outside now. The forest path stretched ahead, so I walked. Because what else do you do when behind you starts acting like it owns you? The deeper I went, the stranger it got. The trees didn't change direction, but my sense of direction did. Every few steps, I felt like I had already taken them before. Like I was walking inside a memory instead of a forest. Then I saw footprints. My footprints. Fresh, leading forward. I stopped. My chest tightened, because I was still standing still. I hadn't moved enough to leave that many prints. I crouched down. The soil was soft, damp, and the footprints didn't just go forward. They came back, like someone walked ahead, and then returned to where I was standing. A full loop. My throat went dry. This is wrong, I said out loud. The forest didn't answer, but the air changed. A pressure, like something leaned closer. I followed the prints anyway, because I needed proof I wasn't losing my mind. They led me back to the cabin. I stopped at the edge of the clearing. My heart dropped. The cabin was there, exactly where I left it. But now there was something new. A small wooden sign beside the door, freshly carved. It said, "New listing ready." I shook my head. No, I left. I walked closer. The door creaked open before I touched it. Inside, everything was reset. Clean sheets, neat table, warm light, like I had never left. And sitting at the desk was me, not moving, just sitting, facing the laptop, typing slowly. My body moved without urgency, calm, focused, like I had done this 1,000 times. I stumbled backward outside. My breath turned sharp. No, I'm out here, I'm right here. I looked at my hands. They felt real, but something was wrong. My fingers were slightly stained with ink, like I had been writing. I turned to run, but the forest didn't feel like escape anymore. It felt like distance that kept resetting. Every direction looked the same. And then my phone buzzed again. One notification. A new listing update. I didn't want to open it, but I did, because I already knew I would. The title had changed. It wasn't the cabin anymore. It was me. Listing Kashivar. Below it, a description was typing itself, slowly appearing in real time. Quiet guest, reliable, arrives on time, forgets leaving. My knees weakened. The words kept forming, and now manages the space between arrivals. I dropped the phone. It didn't break. It just stayed on the ground, still glowing, still updating. Behind me, the cabin door opened again. I didn't turn around, because I could hear typing now. From inside the forest, from inside the cabin, from everywhere at once. And then I understood the worst part. This wasn't a place I came to. It was a place I agreed to. Every time I searched, every time I clicked, every time I booked something that didn't feel real, I was already being written into it. The forest shifted slightly, not moving, updating, like a page refreshing itself. And I felt it then, a strange calm slipping into my thoughts. Not peace, not relief, something else. Familiarity, like I had done this before, like I would do it again. My legs started walking without permission, back toward the cabin. I tried to stop them. I couldn't, because the listing wasn't pulling me anymore. It had already finished pulling me. The door stayed open, waiting, and as I stepped inside, the laptop screen lit up again. A new message appeared. Not from a stranger. From me. Welcome to your shift. The cursor blinked at the end of the sentence, waiting for my next update. And for the first time, I didn't know if I was writing the story, or if the story was writing me.